Alright, today's video is going to be about a real simple technique that I use to build columns to make sure that they're nice and plumb and straight. Alright, so the first thing that I'll do is I'll lay out my column on the floor with a pencil to make sure it's square, all the measurements are the same, and all that stuff like that. The next thing that I'll do is I'll take, this one's a laser, but you can also just use a regular plumb bob. I'll take a laser plumb and I'll shoot the dot directly on the corner of the column, and I'll mark the corresponding one on the top. So as you can see, this laser will shoot a dot on the corner and then shoot a perfectly plumb dot directly above it. I'll do this for all four corners on the column. Okay, shoot a laser straight up to the top, mark all four corners, and then once I've got all four corners, I'll actually lay it out on the ceiling. So I have the same square on the ceiling that I have on the floor. Once I've done that, I'll lay out I'll lay the first two courses of brick, making sure they're all nice and plumb and square and stuff like that. And then I'll take a nail and I'll drive it into the corner. Then I'll take a screw and I'll screw it just outside of the corner of my marks, so that I make sure that my line is on the inside. At that point, I'll take a piece of line and I'll tie it onto the base and the top, and these are what's referred to as jack lines, and I'll do this to all four corners. So now at this point I have all four corners laid out, predetermined, ready to go. So I'll still use my level for leveling, but as far as plumb work goes, that's what these lines are for. I forgot what I was gonna important note. Oh, so where this trick works the best is, well, here's one thing that I should show you first. So when you're laying the bricks, you guys know from class that when you put the bricks down, the mortar tends to squeeze out. And these jack lines are extremely handy, but the number one thing that you got to be careful of is that when you lay the bricks down and that mortar squeezes out, because these things aren't that tight, you got to make sure that that mortar squeezing out doesn't hit that line, because as you move up, each one's going to hit it out further and further and mess up your lines. Now, as you can see, these are pretty loose right now. It's mostly because I just laid this. I'm going to let this set up, and tomorrow I'm going to tie these on a little bit tighter so that there's not so much bounce in the line. Back to what I was saying before, where these are the most handy is this is my main technique for rebuilding chimneys. It works amazing. You tear the chimney down to the base, you take your laser, and what you'll do is you usually grab a sheet of plywood like this. Got to cut a hole in the middle to make sure that the chimney can still vent, but then you just leave the center flues there. Set this on top. Again, make sure there's a hole in the middle so that the chimney can still exhaust through. And I'll do this same thing that you see up here on a sheet of plywood, so that I can directly build the chimney back into its original spot. It's a trick that I use all the time. It cuts down the time. It's a lot of layout, but it saves tenfold on the other side when you actually go to build it. All right. So again, these are called jack lines, and it's a technique I use to make sure that I keep my columns perfectly plumb and straight. Thanks.